What if I told you that the thing you're chasing, the success, the money, the perfect life, is actually making you more anxious? And worse, you're doing it wrong. There's a way to stop panicking, to stop forcing results, and instead let them come to you. But first, you need to listen, just once. Most people spend their lives rushing, pushing, stressing, always trying to control everything. But what if the secret isn't in doing more? What if the answer is in doing less? Tonight, we're not talking about hustle. We're not talking about grinding. We're talking about something deeper, something that changes how you see struggle, success, and peace. And it starts with one night, just one. The illusion of control. You think if you worry enough, plan enough, push hard enough, you'll get what you want. You believe that control is the answer, that if you just think a little harder, stress a little more, force the outcome, it'll happen. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. Panic doesn't create results. It just drains you. It empties you. It leaves you exhausted, staring at the same problems, wondering why nothing's changing. Imagine holding sand in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. You can see it happening, the grains escaping, no matter how hard you try to keep them. But if you relax your grip, the sand stays. It settles. It doesn't fight you. Your mind works the same way. The more you try to force peace, the more it runs from you. The more you chase clarity, the more it hides. Because peace isn't something you grab. It's something you allow. Let's talk about why this illusion of control is so dangerous. You wake up every day with a mental checklist. I need to fix this. I need to solve that. If I don't, everything will fall apart. But ask yourself, how often does forcing things actually work? How often does screaming at traffic make it move faster? How often does refreshing your email 100 times make the response come sooner? You know the answer. It never helps. Yet you keep doing it. Why? Because somewhere deep down, you believe that your anxiety is a form of control. That if you're worried enough, the universe will reward you. But the universe doesn't work like that. Think about a river. You can stand in it, fighting the current, trying to push the water backward with your hands, or you can step back and let it flow. One method exhausts you, the other frees you. This isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing what's yours to change, and what isn't. Your effort, yours. The outcome, not yours. The actions you take today, yours. How the world responds, not yours. Now let's go deeper. Why do you cling to control? Because underneath it all, you're afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid of looking weak. Afraid of admitting that some things are beyond you. But here's the secret. Everyone is afraid. The difference is, some people let that fear drive them in circles. Others acknowledge it, and then let it go. Try this. For one day, catch yourself every time you feel that tightening in your chest, that urge to make something happen. Pause. Ask, is this helping, or is it just making me suffer? Most of the time, you'll realize it's the second one. And in that moment, you have a choice. Keep squeezing the sand, or open your hand. This isn't just philosophy. It's practical. When you stop trying to control everything, two things happen. First, your mind clears. Decisions become easier because you're not clouded by panic. Second, opportunities appear. Ones you were too frantic to notice before. People trust you more because you're not radiating desperation. Solutions come because you're finally calm enough to see them. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, where am I gripping too tight? And then, just for a moment, let go. The night that changes everything. There's a moment, usually late when the world is quiet, when you realize I can't keep doing this, the stress, the overthinking, the constant pressure, it hits you all at once. Maybe you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Maybe you're sitting alone, scrolling mindlessly, trying to numb the noise in your head. But tonight's different. Tonight you feel it. The weight of all those sleepless nights, all those days spent chasing something that never seems to get closer. That's the night you have a choice. Do you keep fighting, or do you finally listen? Most people never get past this moment. They feel the exhaustion, the frustration, and then they bury it. They distract themselves. They tell themselves, tomorrow I'll try harder. But trying harder isn't the answer. Listening is. Let's talk about what it means to really listen. It's not about hearing words. It's about hearing yourself. The parts of you that have been screaming underneath all the noise. The part that's tired of pretending everything's fine. The part that knows this path isn't working, but you're too scared to admit it. That's what this night is for. Not for solutions, not for action plans, just for honesty. Think about the last time you truly rested. Not sleep, not zoning out in front of a screen. Real rest, where your mind wasn't racing, where you weren't rehearsing conversations or replaying mistakes. Can you remember? For most people it's been years, because rest feels like wasted time in a world that glorifies busyness. But what if rest isn't the enemy? What if it's the door? Here's what happens when you stop fighting that night, when you stop reaching for your phone, for another distraction, and just sit with the discomfort. At first, it's unbearable. Your mind will thrash like a trapped animal. Check your email, worry about tomorrow, plan, fix, control. But if you stay still, just for a few minutes, something shifts. The chaos settles, and underneath it, you hear something you've been ignoring for a long time. Your own wisdom. It doesn't shout. It doesn't panic. It's the voice that says, you already know what to do. Not in a flashy, life-changing epiphany way, in a quiet, obvious way. Like realizing you've been holding your breath and finally exhaling. This night isn't about fixing your life in one go. It's about seeing your life clearly for the first time in a long time. Seeing where you've been forcing, where you've been pretending, where you've been following someone else's path instead of your own. And from that clarity, real change begins. So, if you're in that moment tonight, if you're tired of the same cycles, don't run from it, don't numb it, sit with it, listen. The answers aren't as complicated as you think. They're just waiting for you to stop long enough to hear them. The power of letting go. The concept of letting go is perhaps one of the most misunderstood principles in personal growth. We live in a world that equates control with success, that tells us if we're not gripping tightly to every aspect of our lives, we're somehow failing. But true wisdom lies in understanding the paradox. The more you try to control, the less control you actually have. The moment you release your grip is the moment you gain real power over your life. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. You dip your hand into the rushing water and try to hold it. No matter how tightly you clench your fist, the water slips through your fingers. The harder you try to grasp it, the faster it escapes. This is exactly what happens when we try to control every outcome in our lives. We exhaust ourselves trying to hold on to things that were never meant to be held so tightly. The river continues to flow, whether we try to control it or not. Our peace comes not from stopping the river, but from learning to flow with it. This principle manifests in countless ways in our daily lives. Think about sleep, something so fundamental yet so elusive for many. You lie in bed, desperately trying to force yourself to sleep, watching the clock, calculating how many hours you'll get if you fall asleep right now. The more you try to control your sleep, the more it evades you. But on those nights when you simply let go, when you stop trying so hard, sleep comes naturally. The body knows how to sleep, just as the river knows how to flow. Our interference is often the only thing standing in the way. Relationships follow the same pattern. The more we try to control another person's feelings or actions, the more strained the relationship becomes. Love cannot be demanded or forced. It must be allowed to exist in its own natural rhythm. Parents learn this as their children grow. The tighter they hold, the more their children pull away. The healthiest relationships exist in that delicate balance between connection and freedom, between caring deeply and allowing space. In our professional lives, this principle is equally powerful. Consider how often we try to force opportunities or outcomes. The job applicant who calls every day to check on their application, thinking this shows enthusiasm, when in reality it comes across as desperation. The entrepreneur who pushes so hard to make something happen that they miss the organic opportunities unfolding around them. Success often comes when we do our part with excellence, then release our attachment to exactly how and when the results should appear. The art of letting go is not about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about shifting from a mindset of forcing to a mindset of allowing. It's the difference between a gardener who digs up seeds daily to check their progress and one who provides the right conditions, water, sunlight, good soil, then trusts in nature's timing. Both gardeners care deeply, but one understands that growth cannot be rushed or controlled beyond a certain point. This understanding transforms how we approach our goals. When we release our death grip on specific outcomes, we open ourselves to possibilities we couldn't have imagined while clinging to our narrow vision. Some of life's greatest gifts come in forms we didn't expect and wouldn't have chosen if we were trying to control everything. The job we didn't get that led us to a better opportunity, the relationship that ended, making space for one more fulfilling, the plan that failed, redirecting us to a path more aligned with our true purpose. Letting go also changes our experience of time. When we're constantly trying to control outcomes, we live in the future, anxious about what might happen, trying to orchestrate every detail. When we learn to let go, we return to the present moment where life actually happens. We discover that much of our stress comes not from current circumstances, but from our resistance to how things are and our attempts to control how they will be. The physical manifestations of this principle are profound. Notice what happens in your body when you're trying to control something: the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the shallow breathing. Then observe the contrast when you consciously let go. The deep breath that comes naturally, the muscles relaxing, the sense of space opening up within you. Our bodies understand this wisdom, even when our minds resist it. Financial security is another area where this principle applies powerfully. People who try to control every penny often find themselves in a constant state of anxiety about money. Those who develop healthy financial habits but maintain an attitude of trust often find that money flows to them more easily. This isn't about magical thinking, it's about recognizing that while we should be responsible with our resources, true security comes from developing our ability to create value, not from trying to control every financial variable. Even in our spiritual lives, letting go is essential. Many people approach meditation or prayer as something to get right, turning these practices into yet another thing to control. But the deepest spiritual experiences come when we release our efforts and simply be present. The peace we seek is already here. We just need to stop blocking it with our constant doing and controlling. The practice of letting go is just that, a practice. It's not something we master once and for all. Each day presents new opportunities to notice where we are gripping too tightly and consciously release our hold. It might be catching ourselves trying to control a conversation and instead truly listening. It might be noticing our anxiety about the future and bringing our attention back to the present. With each small act of release, we strengthen our ability to trust the flow of life. Ultimately, letting go is about returning to our natural state, the state we were born into before we learned to tense up against life. Watch how a baby sleeps, completely surrendered. Observe how children play, fully immersed in the moment. This is our birthright, the ability to engage fully with life without constant resistance. The journey isn't about acquiring something new, but about unlearning the habits of control that have accumulated over the years. As you move through your day to day, notice where you might be holding on too tightly. See if you can take one small step back, create one small space for things to unfold naturally. You might be surprised at how life supports you when you stop trying to control every detail. The universe has its own intelligence, and when we align with it rather than fight against it, we discover a flow that carries us forward with less effort and more joy. The affirmation shift. Affirmations have become a popular tool for personal transformation, but most people are using them incorrectly. The traditional approach, repeating positive statements that often contradict our current reality, creates an internal resistance that actually undermines their effectiveness. True affirmations aren't about convincing ourselves of something we don't believe. They're about aligning with deeper truths that our surface mind might have forgotten. The problem with most affirmations is that they ask us to lie to ourselves. When someone struggling financially repeats, "I am wealthy," their subconscious immediately counters with all the evidence to the contrary. This creates cognitive dissonance rather than transformation. The more our affirmations conflict with our current reality, the more our mind rebels against them. This is why so many people give up on affirmations. Not because the practice doesn't work, but because they're doing it in a way that triggers resistance rather than receptivity. Real transformation begins when we shift from declarations to recognitions. Instead of stating what we wish were true, we affirm what is fundamentally true beneath our temporary circumstance. For example, rather than saying, "I am perfectly confident" while feeling nervous, we might say, "I am capable of handling this situation." This subtle shift makes all the difference, because it's something we can actually believe in the moment. The affirmation meets us where we are, while gently stretching us toward growth. This approach works because it honors our current reality, while opening the door to new possibilities. Our subconscious doesn't reject it, because it contains truth rather than fantasy. When we say, "I am learning to trust myself more each day," every part of us can agree with that statement. There's no internal argument, no voice saying, "That's not true." Without that resistance, the affirmation can actually take root and create change. The most powerful affirmations are those that feel like reminders rather than wishes. They have the quality of something we once knew but forgot, not something we're trying to convince ourselves of. When you find an affirmation that gives you that aha feeling, that sense of, "Oh yes, that's true," you found one that will actually work for you. These are the affirmations that slip past our mental defenses and sink into our deeper consciousness, where real change occurs. Timing and repetition matter tremendously with affirmations. It's far more effective to repeat an affirmation a few times with full presence and belief than to mindlessly repeat it hundreds of times while distracted. The quality of attention we bring to our affirmations determines their impact. When we say them with focused intention, we're programming our subconscious. When we say them absent-mindedly, we're just making noise. The physical state we're in when we affirm also influences their effectiveness. Affirmations said while relaxed and breathing deeply penetrate much deeper than those said while tense and rushed. This is why morning and evening are particularly powerful times for affirmations. We're naturally in more receptive states during these transitions. The body and mind are more open to new programming when we're not caught up in the busyness of the day. Another key aspect of effective affirmations is making them personal. Generic affirmations found in books or online often lack the emotional resonance needed to create change. When we craft our own affirmations based on our specific challenges and aspirations, they carry much more power. The words should evoke a felt sense of truth, not just sound good intellectually. An affirmation that brings tears to your eyes or gives you chills is one that's touching something deep within you. The language we use in affirmations is crucial. Absolute statements like always or never often trigger subconscious resistance because life rarely works in absolute. More flexible language like I am getting better at or I am learning to is easier for our mind to accept. Our subconscious responds better to gradual change than to sudden transformations. So affirmations that acknowledge progress work better than those demanding instant change. Perhaps most importantly, affirmations must be paired with corresponding action. Repeating I am healthy while maintaining unhealthy habits creates a disconnect that undermines the affirmation. When our actions align with our words, the affirmation becomes a reinforcement of behavior rather than a replacement for it. This is why the most effective affirmations are those that inspire us to take small, concrete steps in the direction we want to grow. The emotional tone we use when affirming matters greatly. Saying an affirmation with desperation, "Please let this be true," carries a very different energy than saying it with quiet confidence, "This is becoming true." The former comes from lack, the latter from growth. Our subconscious picks up on this emotional content. So it's important to find an authentic emotional tone that isn't forced but also isn't rooted in fear or neediness. Many people make the mistake of using affirmations to suppress rather than transform their difficult emotions. Saying I am happy when you're actually sad is a form of spiritual bypassing. Effective affirmations acknowledge our current state while pointing toward growth. Even though I feel sad right now, I know this will pass and joy will return. This approach honors our humanity while still directing our mind toward positive outcomes. The rhythm of how we use affirmations affects their power rather than marathon affirmation sessions that leave us mentally fatigued. Short but consistent repetitions throughout the day work better. A single affirmation, repeated with full attention several times a day, creates more impact than hours of half-hearted repetition. It's like watering a plant with regular, moderate amounts rather than flooding it occasionally. Visualization supercharges our affirmations when done correctly. Rather than just saying the words, we can take a moment to feel what it would be like if the affirmation were already true. This multisensory approach engages more of our brain and makes the affirmation more real to our nervous system. The key is to keep the visualization positive but realistic, not fantasy, but a genuine possibility we can believe in. Affirmations work best when we release our attachment to immediate results. Just as we don't plant a seed and dig it up daily to check for growth, we shouldn't obsess over whether our affirmations are working. We plant the mental seed through repetition, then trust in the natural process of growth. The changes often come so gradually, we don't notice them until we look back weeks or months later and realize how far we've come. The most profound affirmations are those that connect us to our deepest truth, rather than just surface desires. Affirmations about peace, presence, and inner strength often have more transformative power than those focused solely on external achievements. When we affirm qualities of being rather than just having, we change at the core level, which then naturally affects all areas of our lives. Ultimately, the shift in how we use affirmations mirrors the larger shift in personal growth, from forcing to allowing, from pretending to authentic becoming. When we stop using affirmations as wishful thinking and start using them as reminders of our deepest truth, they become powerful tools for real and lasting transformation. The words we repeat to ourselves shape our reality, so it's worth choosing them wisely and speaking them with conscious intention. The enemy isn't outside, it's you. You spend so much time looking for obstacles outside yourself. The economy is bad. The competition is tough. People don't understand you. The world is unfair. And while some of that might be true, none of it is your biggest problem. Your biggest problem isn't out there. It's in here, inside your mind. The voice that whispers, "You're going to fail." The fear that tightens your chest before you even try. The hesitation that keeps you stuck in the same place, year after year. This is the real enemy, not failure itself, but your fear of it. Think about how many times you've stopped yourself before you even started. How many ideas you've abandoned because you imagined them failing before they had a chance. How many opportunities you've avoided because you were afraid of looking foolish. We do this constantly without even realizing it. We think we're protecting ourselves, but really, we're just locking ourselves in a cage of our own making. The truth is, failure isn't the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing is never trying at all, never knowing what could have been, never finding out how strong you really are, because you were too afraid to test yourself. That voice in your head, the one that says, "What if I mess up?" will always be there. It doesn't go away, but you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to obey it. You can acknowledge it and then do the thing anyway. This is the key. Most people wait for the fear to disappear before they act. They think, once I'm confident, I'll start. But confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from action. The only way to quiet the fear is to move through it, to prove to yourself again and again that you can handle discomfort, that you can survive mistakes, that failure isn't the end, it's just feedback. Imagine if you treated fear like weather. Some days are sunny, some days are stormy, but you don't let it stop you from living. You don't wait for perfect conditions to go outside. You just bring an umbrella if it's raining. Fear is the same. It comes and goes. Some days it's loud, some days it's quiet, but you don't have to let it dictate your life. The real shift happens when you stop seeing fear as a stop sign and start seeing it as a signpost. It's not telling you, "Don't go there." It's telling you, "This matters to you." The things we care about will always scare us a little. If you're not afraid at all, you're probably not challenging yourself. So the question isn't, how do I get rid of fear? The question is, how do I move forward despite it? And the answer is simple. You act before the fear has time to talk you out of it. You don't wait until you feel ready. You don't overthink it. You just take the first step, however small, because action is the antidote to fear. Every time you do this, you weaken fear's grip. You prove to yourself that you're stronger than your doubts. And over time, that voice, the one that says you can't, gets quieter. Not because it disappears, but because you've stopped giving it power. This is how you reclaim your life from fear, not by eliminating it, but by refusing to let it make your decisions for you. So today, pay attention. Notice when fear is speaking, and then ask yourself, is this fear protecting me, or is it holding me back? Most of the time you'll realize it's just noise, and you don't have to listen. The 1-minute rule, panic doesn't help. It never has. But we keep doing it anyway. We convince ourselves that if we worry enough, if we obsess enough, we'll somehow prevent disaster. But all we're really doing is making ourselves miserable in advance. There's a better way. The next time you feel panic rising, when your heart starts pounding, your thoughts start racing, and your body tenses up, stop just for 1 minute. Close your eyes, breathe, and ask yourself one simple question. Is this helping, or is it just hurting? Most of the time the answer is obvious. Panic isn't solving anything. It's just making everything feel worse. This is the 1-minute rule. It's not about eliminating stress. It's about interrupting the cycle before it spirals out of control. Because panic feeds on momentum. The more you let it run, the stronger it gets. But if you pause even for just 60 seconds, you break the pattern. You create space between the trigger and your reaction. And in that space, you find clarity. Here's how it works in real life. You're working on a project, and suddenly doubt crashes over you. What if this isn't good enough? What if people hate it? Your chest tightens. Your mind starts spinning worst-case scenarios. This is the moment. Instead of diving deeper into the panic, you stop. You close your eyes. You take a deep breath. Slow in, slow out. You count to 10, and then you ask, is this fear helping me right now? The answer is always no. Because panic doesn't improve your work. It doesn't make you more prepared. It just drains your energy and clouds your judgment. Once you see that, the panic loses its power. It might not vanish completely, but it no longer controls you. This rule works because it's not about fighting your emotions. It's about observing them. When you try to suppress panic, it fights back harder. But when you pause and acknowledge it without getting swept away, something shifts. You realize that panic is just a feeling, not a fact. It's your body's alarm system going off. But that doesn't mean there's actually a fire. The most successful people in any field understand this. They know you can't control outcomes. Only effort. They focus on perfecting their craft, on showing up every day, on doing the work regardless of whether they're seeing immediate rewards. They trust in compound growth. The idea that small, consistent actions create massive results over time. They don't panic when they don't see progress right away, because they understand that growth happens beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. A bamboo plant spends years developing its root system underground, before it suddenly shoots up several feet in just weeks. Your growth works the same way. This doesn't mean you should just sit back and wait passively. It means you should work with focused intention. Then release your attachment to exactly how and when the results should come. It means understanding that the universe has its own intelligence, its own timing, and that often what comes is better than what you had planned. How many times have you looked back at something you desperately wanted but didn't get, only to realize later that not getting it was actually a blessing. The job you didn't get that led you to a better opportunity. The relationship that ended making space for something more aligned. The plan that failed, redirecting you to your true path. When you really internalize this, it changes everything. You stop measuring your worth by immediate outcomes. You stop beating yourself up when things don't happen on your timeline. You start trusting the process rather than fighting against it. And most importantly, you start noticing all the small signs of progress you were missing before, because you were so focused on the big dramatic results, the subtle improvements, the gradual shifts, the quiet moments of growth that happen beneath the surface before anything visible appears. This is how you build real, lasting success, not through force and control, but through consistent action combined with deep trust, through showing up every day regardless of whether you can see the results yet, through understanding that the harvest always comes, but never when or how you expect. The farmer doesn't stand in the field screaming at the crops to grow faster. They do their part, planting, watering, tending, and then they trust. You must learn to do the same with your life. Do your part, then let go. The results will come. Maybe not today, maybe not how you imagined, but they will come. And when they do, you'll realize they were worth the wait. The night becomes morning. There comes a point, usually late at night when the world is quiet and you're alone with your thoughts, when something shifts. Maybe you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Maybe you're sitting by a window watching the moonlight, but suddenly, in that stillness, you see clearly. All the noise fades away, and for the first time in a long time, you understand this isn't an ending, it's a beginning. That moment of clarity in the darkness isn't the finale, it's the first light of dawn breaking through. The most successful people in any field understand this. They know you can't control outcomes, only effort. They focus on perfecting their craft, on showing up every day, on doing the work, regardless of whether they're seeing immediate rewards. They trust in compound growth. The idea that small, consistent actions create massive results over time. They don't panic when they don't see progress right away, because they understand that growth happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. A bamboo plant spends years developing its root system underground before it suddenly shoots up several feet in just weeks. Your growth works the same way. This doesn't mean you should just sit back and wait passively. It means you should work with focused intention, then release your attachment to exactly how and when the results should come. It means understanding that the universe has its own intelligence, its own timing, and that often what comes is better than what you had planned. How many times have you looked back at something you desperately wanted but didn't get, only to realize later that not getting it was actually a blessing? The job you didn't get that led you to a better opportunity, the relationship that ended making space for something more aligned, the plan that failed, redirecting you to your true path. When you really internalize this, it changes everything. You stop measuring your worth by immediate outcomes. You stop beating yourself up when things don't happen on your timeline. You start trusting the process rather than fighting against it. And most importantly, you start noticing all the small signs of progress you were missing before, because you were so focused on the big, dramatic results, the subtle improvements, the gradual shifts, the quiet moments of growth that happen beneath the surface before anything visible appears. This is how you build real, lasting success, not through force and control, but through consistent action combined with deep trust, through showing up every day regardless of whether you can see the results yet, through understanding that the harvest always comes, but never when or how you expect. The farmer doesn't stand in the field screaming at the crops to grow faster. They do their part, planting, watering, tending, and then they trust. You must learn to do the same with your life. Do your part, then let go. The results will come. Maybe not today, maybe not how you imagined, but they will come. And when they do, you'll realize they were worth the wait. The night becomes morning. There comes a point, usually late at night, when the world is quiet and you're alone with your thoughts, when something shifts. Maybe you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Maybe you're sitting by a window watching the moonlight. But suddenly, in that stillness, you see clearly. All the noise fades away, and for the first time in a long time you understand. This isn't an ending, it's a beginning. That moment of clarity in the darkness isn't the finale, it's the first light of dawn breaking through. Most people miss this. They have these moments of insight, but then panic sets in again. The old habits return. The overthinking takes over. They go back to trying to force things to happen. But when you learn to sit with that clarity instead of running from it, something remarkable happens. Your mind starts to clear. Your decisions become sharper. The path forward that seemed so confusing suddenly makes sense. And without you even trying, things begin falling into place. This is the magic that happens when you stop panicking, when you stop trying to control every little detail, when you finally accept that maybe, just maybe, you don't have to have everything figured out right now. The night of clarity becomes morning, not because you forced it to, but because you allowed it to. You stopped fighting the natural rhythm of things, and instead learned to flow with it. Think about how mornings actually happen in nature. The darkness doesn't disappear all at once. The sun doesn't just suddenly appear. There's a gradual lightening, a slow unfolding, a gentle transition from night to day. Your personal growth works exactly the same way. That moment of clarity you experience isn't an instant transformation. It's the first hint of light after a long darkness. It's the beginning of a new phase, not the completion of one. The problem is that we want morning to come immediately. We want the full light of day, the second we have a moment of insight. But real change doesn't work like that. It's a process. That first moment of clarity is just that, a moment. It needs time to grow, to expand, to become your new normal. And the only way that happens is if you don't panic when the darkness inevitably returns at times. If you understand that night and day cycle continuously, and that each night brings you closer to lasting clarity rather than taking you further from it. This is why so many people give up right before their breakthrough. They have a moment of understanding, but then when things don't immediately change, they think it was all for nothing. They don't realize that the moment of clarity was just the first step, not the entire journey, that the night has to run its course before morning can fully arrive. That transformation is a process of unfolding, not flipping a switch. When you start to see this, everything changes. You stop expecting overnight success. You stop beating yourself up when you have moments of doubt or confusion. You understand that these are just part of the natural rhythm of growth, the necessary darkness that makes the light meaningful. You begin to trust the process rather than fight against it. And in that trust, something beautiful happens. You start noticing progress where you never saw it before. The small insights that come throughout your day, the subtle shifts in your thinking, the gradual changes in how you respond to challenges. These are all evidence that morning is coming, even if it's not fully here yet. Most people miss these signs because they're too busy looking for dramatic transformations. But real change happens quietly, consistently, almost imperceptibly, until one day, you look up and realize nothing is the same anymore. This is what happens when you let the night become morning, naturally, instead of trying to force it. You don't have to have all the answers right away. You don't have to see the entire path. You just need to trust that each moment of clarity, no matter how small, is moving you forward. That each insight is another thread of light in the darkness. And that if you keep going, keep trusting, keep showing up, morning will come. Not because you made it happen, but because it's the natural order of things. Night always gives way to dawn. Always. Your only job is to not panic in the darkness. To remember that the moment of clarity you experienced wasn't a fluke. It was a promise that if you stay the course, morning is coming. And when it does, you'll look back and realize every moment of uncertainty, every hour of darkness was necessary to bring you to the light. So tonight, if you find yourself in that quiet space of clarity, don't rush past it. Don't immediately start planning how to act on it. Just sit with it. Let it settle into your bones. Trust that this moment is the first light of your new morning, and know that all you have to do is keep moving forward, one step, one breath, one day at a time. The sun will rise when it's ready. Your job is just to be there to greet it when it does. The practice, not the theory. Reading these words means nothing. Understanding the concepts means nothing. Even agreeing with them means nothing. The only thing that matters is what you do with them, right now, tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, because you'll never feel ready. That's the whole point. The practice isn't about waiting for perfect conditions. It's about starting where you are, as you are, with whatever you have. So tonight, just for one night, try this. Don't panic. Don't overthink. Don't try to figure everything out. Just do what's directly in front of you. Then rest. That's it. Nothing more. If you're washing dishes, just wash dishes. If you're answering emails, just answer emails. If you're lying in bed, just lie in bed. No mental commentary about how you should be doing more. No frantic planning for tomorrow. No replaying conversations from yesterday. Just this moment. Just this action. Then the next one. Then the next. You'll notice something immediately. Your mind will rebel. It will scream that this is too simple, that you need to be worrying, that you're being irresponsible by not obsessing over every possible outcome. That's fine. Let it scream. Don't argue with it. Don't try to silence it. Just don't obey it. Keep returning to what's actually happening right now, not what might happen later. Keep coming back to the physical reality around you, the feeling of your feet on the floor, the sound of your breath, the weight of your body in the chair. These are anchors that keep you from being swept away by the storm in your mind. This isn't meditation. This isn't some special spiritual practice. This is simply how life works when you're not making it more complicated than it needs to be. The reason it feels foreign is that you've spent years training yourself to do the opposite, to always be 3 steps ahead, to treat every moment as preparation for some future moment that never actually comes. But tonight, just for tonight, you're going to break that pattern. You're going to trust that whatever needs to get done will get done, and whatever doesn't wasn't that important anyway. Here's what will happen when you try this. At first, you'll feel uncomfortable. Your body might even react physically. Restlessness, anxiety, and itch to do something. Anything to escape the present moment. This is normal. It's your addiction to mental chaos showing itself. Like any addiction, withdrawal is unpleasant at first. But if you stay with it, something remarkable occurs. The tension starts to dissolve. The mental noise quiets down. Not completely, but enough that you can see through it to what's actually important. you'll realize how much energy you've been wasting on things that don't matter, how many hypothetical scenarios you've been preparing for that will never happen, how much of your life you've missed because you were too busy worrying about living to actually live. And in that realization comes freedom. The freedom to stop doing that to yourself. Not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually, moment by moment. This practice isn't about achieving some permanent state of Zen. It's about creating small pockets of sanity in your day, where you remember what's real, where you touch base with the actual experience of being alive, rather than getting lost in thoughts about life. The more you do this, the more those pockets grow, until eventually they become your default way of operating. But that comes later. For now, just tonight, just this moment, just seeing what happens when you stop trying to control everything and simply let yourself be where you are. The results won't come from thinking about this. They won't come from analyzing it. They'll come from doing it. So close this article now and go practice. Not tomorrow. Now. The theory is meaningless without the practice, and the practice is available to you in this very moment. All you have to do is start the life you didn't know you could have. Imagine waking up and for the first few moments, there's no tightness in your chest, no immediate flood of anxious thoughts, no mental list of everything that could go wrong today. Just quiet, just presence, just you in your body, in your room, in the new day. Imagine getting out of bed without that heavy weight you've carried for so long you forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. Imagine moving through your morning without frantically checking your phone, without seeking some external validation or bad news to confirm your fears, without that constant background hum of dread. This isn't fantasy. This isn't some unattainable spiritual ideal. This is a real possibility for your actual life. Not because your circumstances will magically become perfect, but because your relationship to those circumstances can fundamentally change. The difference between the life you have now and the life you could have isn't about what happens to you, it's about how you meet what happens. It's about the space between stimulus and response that most people never discover because they're too busy reacting to everything without pause. That life, the one where you're not constantly braced for impact, where you're not exhausting yourself trying to control the uncontrollable, where you can actually enjoy moments as they come instead of worrying about when they'll leave. That life is available to you right now, not after some future achievement, not when everything falls into place. Now, but you have to choose it. And choosing it doesn't mean it magically appears. It means you start showing up differently in each moment until those moments accumulate into a new way of living. Most people never experience this because they're waiting for their external world to change before they allow their internal world to shift. They think, when I have more money, then I'll feel secure. Or when I find the right relationship, then I'll feel at peace. But it doesn't work that way. The peace has to come first. The security has to come from within. Otherwise, you'll just keep moving the goalposts, always convinced that the next achievement, the next possession, the next life circumstance will finally be the one that makes you feel okay. The life you didn't know you could have isn't about having different problems. It's about having a different relationship to problems. It's about meeting challenges from a place of centeredness rather than panic. It's about experiencing difficult emotions without being consumed by them. It's about being able to enjoy good moments without immediately worrying about their end. None of this requires that your external circumstances change first. All of it begins with how you choose to meet each moment. This might sound abstract, but it's incredibly practical. It looks like pausing before reacting. It looks like noticing when you're spiraling into worry and gently bringing yourself back. It looks like doing one thing at a time with your full attention, instead of multitasking your way through life. These small shifts, practiced consistently, change everything. Not overnight, but gradually, like the sun rising. So subtly you don't notice the light increasing until suddenly you can see clearly. The biggest obstacle isn't that this life is difficult to attain. The biggest obstacle is that it's so simple we overlook it. We think peace must be complicated because our suffering feels complicated. We think contentment must require some secret knowledge because our dissatisfaction has so many layers. But the truth is shockingly straightforward. The life you want begins when you stop creating the life you don't want, when you stop feeding your anxieties with constant attention, when you stop believing every fearful thought that passes through your mind. This doesn't mean you'll never feel stress again. It doesn't mean you'll float through life untouched by difficulty. It means you'll no longer be at the mercy of those experiences. You'll be able to feel fear without being paralyzed by it. You'll be able to face challenges without being overwhelmed by them. You'll be able to enjoy pleasures without being anxious about losing them. This is true freedom, not the absence of problems, but the ability to meet problems with clarity and resilience. That life is closer than you think. In fact, it's already here, waiting beneath all the mental noise you've accumulated over the years. You don't have to create it. You just have to stop blocking it. And you stop blocking it by making different choices in each moment. The choice to pause before reacting. The choice to question your anxious thoughts. The choice to return your attention to what's actually happening rather than what might happen. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the fear, beneath all the stories you've told yourself about how life has to be. That version of you, the one that knows how to be at peace, how to meet life as it comes, how to enjoy the present without clinging to it. That version isn't something you need to create. It's something you need to uncover. The path isn't complicated, it's just unfamiliar. And the only way to make it familiar is to walk it. Not perfectly, not all at once, but step by step, moment by moment. Start tonight, start now. The life you didn't know you could have is waiting. All you have to do is choose it. Panic doesn't protect you, it just exhausts you. So tonight, just for one night, try something different. Listen, trust, let go, and watch what happens.